Welcome back to the New News with your host Olivia Jane, where we discuss what the hell is going on around the world and how it affects the average person like you and me. On today's New News, the Grenfell disaster continues, hundreds get out of jail free, Princess Catherine shares news, teen sexting on the increase, 2,000 mental health patients in Essex dead, customers charged for their returns, Paramount Plus ban men from going out at night. The Grenfell Tower report appears to have been a true masterclass in bureaucratic finger-pointing and missed opportunities. After a mere 1,700 pages, we learned what we already knew. Nobody involved could be bothered to do their job properly. That tragedy that claimed 72 lives? Just the end result of 3 decades of mind-blowing incompetence, laziness, and total indifference. The story begins with a similar fire in Liverpool back in 1991. This was the fire that flagged the dangerous cladding. Next, 6 people died in Camberwell in 2009. Again, nothing. They were both treated with all the urgency of a tea break. Then there's the cladding manufacturers who thoughtfully hid the fact that their product was basically a death trap, hanging off of thousands of homes and killing people across the country. Fast forward 7 years after Grenfell, and guess what? That same lethal cladding is still out there, like a ticking time bomb. Oh, but don't worry, nobody's in any rush to hold anyone accountable, especially the lawyers, some of whom are making so much money they could afford to replace the cladding themselves. Justice, much like safety, is something remaining residents and families of Grenfell can only hope for, because apparently hoping is as good as it gets when it comes to basic human safety in housing. Government, councils, builders have all made money from these deaths because of the shortcuts they took and oversaw. Needless to say, if the same thing happened in Knightsbridge or Richmond, it would have only happened once. Jailed prisoners all over the country are eagerly awaiting news of their own early release, as the government continues to release thousands of prisoners to ease overcrowding. This is after sentencing hundreds of people to jail following the August riots. With prisons stuffed beyond capacity, criminal courts choked by backlogs, and the number of people on remand hitting a 50-year high, the answer is to unlock the cells and let another 1,750 offenders go free. With some inmates serving just 40% of their sentence, the move has gone down very well for them. Again, the Labour government blame their predecessors, claiming they inherited a system on the point of collapse. Were Keir and co expecting a clean slate? The Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer assures us that ministers are doing everything they can to prevent domestic abusers from being released early. Although, everything doesn't include basic communication with the victims themselves, so apparently not. Catherine, Princess of Wales, shared some positive news. She has completed her course of chemotherapy. While she is still cautious about her recovery and cannot yet confirm she is cancer-free, the news brings hope and relief to the royal family, especially in a year when the king has also faced health concerns. Catherine expressed her hope to gradually return to public duties, including attending a Remembrance Day event in November. In her message, she once again offered empathy and support to others going through similar health battles, and she spoke about gaining a new perspective on life through this experience. According to new research, there is a teen sexting epidemic, with 2/5 of British teens having shared an intimate message. So, is sexting really an epidemic, or are we sensationalizing statistics from a survey that leaves a lot of questions unanswered? The survey in question had just 2,000 respondents, hardly representative for the behaviour of millions of teens, and who exactly took part in this survey? Every teen today knows that when you send any message, it's out there forever. Even with all the privacy settings, disappearing messages, and promises that no one else will see this, the reality is that once it's sent, it is no longer in your control. Screenshots, backups, and hackers mean that nothing is truly private. While we all understand it happens, shouldn't the focus of any sexting investigation be focused on the adults that research child porn? Texting. Maybe that's why this research was undertaken. Maybe it was the new "I was researching a book" excuse. A public inquiry began this week into the deaths of almost 2,000 NHS mental health patients in Essex who died in hospital or within 3 months of being discharged. Those who died were treated between 2000 and 2023. The inquiry will attempt to show failings of the staff and overall mental health care. The grieving families have said that some of their loved ones' deaths simply didn't make sense and they weren't handled with care. The patients are meant to be safe and looked after within hospital. However, many of the patients had only been there days when they were allowed to kill themselves. Chairman of the inquiry says she thinks that the number of deaths will be significantly in excess of the number reported, and that we shall never know the true number of those failed by the poor Essex mental health care. ASOS is another online retailer who is now charging their customers with high return rates a fee to return their clothes. It's part of their updated fair use policy, which will start in October. The shoppers will be charged a flat £3.95 fee unless more than £40 on clothing is kept. This has again brought up the conversation of clothing sizing. Many purchase one garment in different sizes, as online clothing sizes are often, if not always, not true to size. For many larger people, their sizes are only available online, and they need to order a lot of clothes to see if any of them even fit. Is it fair of online retailers to charge their customers when many are just using large returns as a way to tackle the company's lack of consistent sizing? A Paramount Plus series, a new show that sets place in a dystopian world where men live under a Women's Safety Act, is set to be released on the 10th of October. From what I can gather from the trailer, to combat rising violence from men against women, they set a curfew that men cannot leave their houses after dark. And somehow, the majority of men just accept this and don't go out. This means that women take on the roles of beat cops and nighttime detectives, and it follows along as a detective is called to a crime scene where a woman has been brutally murdered. The detective says, well, someone with this amount of strength and brutality, it must have been a male killer. To which people go, no, you silly sausage, we told them to stay inside. A man wouldn't break curfew. The detective then has to work on the case and unpack whether women can be just as violent as men. All whilst the trailer has wildly antagonistic lines, such as, they're not letting men be men anymore, and curfew was supposed to make us all safe, and no men allowed. Listen, this is not even out yet and I hate it. I hate it on behalf of men and women. On one hand, it's painting men as docile little pushovers who are both clearly harming women at such a high rate that they need a curfew, but also a group who will do as they are told to stay inside or they'll get a little slap on the wrist. It paints women as victims of men, but also the whole trailer just shows a bunch of women arguing with each other and then blaming each other when someone gets killed. What is this show trying to prove? That men aren't the only people who can murder? I think we already knew that. Is it trying to say that there's no society where women can be safe? Or that men being men is linked to aggression? Either way, I would say it's an insult to both genders. Kamala Harris prepared for her debate with Donald Trump by locking herself in a hotel room with a Donald Trump impersonator. Was it worth it? According to polls, it was not, as Trump left with 92% of viewers thinking he won the debate. Feedback suggests neither candidate won, as the debate and the questions led to a whole lot of nothing said from either party. Kamala would say that Trump thinks this, and Trump would say, oh no I don't, and then Trump would say Kamala is this, and then Kamala would say, oh no I'm not. It was a pantomime. The highlights include Trump saying he now believes in climate change, he would not ban abortion statewide, and that he thinks he can end the Israel-Palestine war and the Russia-Ukraine war. Kamala's take on the Palestinians disappointed a lot of Democrats, but she did have to remind Trump many times that he was debating her and not Joe Biden, so a lot of his attacking points weren't even quite relevant. And that's it for this week's new news. Make sure to like and subscribe and comment down below how you feel about the new news of this week. If you have any subjects you want us to cover for next week, make sure to comment them down below too. See you next week. Bye!